It's back on now. We're good now. No, that's okay. That was Brent Rath making a cameo on our podcast here. So, yes, apologize for the technical difficulties here, but we're off and running.
There we go.
On this podcast here, this is Season 3, Episode 3 of the Van Dyke Mortgage WC Sports Podcast, brought to you by Durg Insurance Group. We're coming at you live from the CatchMark podcast room in our Whitehall, Michigan office. So I'm Scott DeCamp, happy to be back from Punta Cana. Okay, maybe not happy, but grateful for the experience. You know, obviously, vacation doesn't suck, and that was a great trip. But you know, now that you're annoyed that I actually went someplace really cool,
Right.
We can get this show rolling. So after a two-week holiday break, we're back. Surprisingly, co-host Ken Byard and Cody have agreed to return. How was your break, guys?
It was great. Yeah. Some family time and lots of football and looking at your Facebook pictures and being mad at you and all that good stuff, you know. Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, break was awesome, man. A lot of time with your family and, well, not your family, but my family.
I was going to say,
That's weird.
I was going to say we left the kids.
Like out of
We left the kids. The two older kids, 19 and 60, we left them home.
Yeah, it was just you two.
Yeah,
down there. Okay.
Yeah. Adults only. I don't know why I got to go, but
yeah, exactly. But no, break was good. It was a lot of fun being able to hang out at the new house. So
good job.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Good deal. So today we'd like to welcome our guest. It's Todd "Scoop" Hansen, a man of many hats. A lot of people know him, the Ludington native, as a familiar voice of the Oriole Sports Network. Thanks for joining us today, Todd.
Thanks for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
Before we get into the topics and dive into that, we're going to just give a shout-out to our sponsors. That includes Grieve Law, West Michigan Joint Divorce Lawyers, Big Stone Therapies, Green Ridge Realty with Chris Dykman, Sarah Reel, North Grove Brewers, Foundation Systems of Michigan and John Botten, Coldwell Banker with David Dusenberry, Scheid Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, and a special thank you to our title sponsors again, Van Dyke Mortgage Lakeshore, whose commitment to finding you the right home loan is second to none. Their experienced, licensed team is ready to work with you to ensure a smooth and timely loan process from application to closing. You can check them out at 460 West Western Avenue in Muskegon, or give them a call at 231-332-6500. And then, of course, don't forget Durg Insurance Group. Durg Insurance Group looks at success through a different set of lenses, placing the relationship with their clients first. Regardless of what stage you're at in life, they are there for you each step of the way to offer you the level of insight and care you deserve. You can check them out. Their office is at 1535 Fire Road, Norton Shores. Call them Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, 231-744-9106. So, and again, another reminder, we'd love to hear from you. We have a comment section on the YouTube channel here, so hit us up in that section. We'll get to your questions, anything you have for Todd or Ken or Cody or me. We'd be happy to do it. So back to Scoop. Your background, 1984, Ludington grad, the same year that the Tigers last won the World Series. So special year.
Very special year. My boot camp company was all from Michigan. There was a young man in that boot camp company that was from Whitehall by the name of Ryan Fisher. I don't know if that name rings a bell with any of you, but the whole company from Michigan, sworn in behind the home plate at Tiger Stadium, and last time the Tigers won the World Series. So yeah, that's a very good memory.
But referring to what your background, retired sailor, U.S. Navy, what was that experience like, and how did it mold you, would you say?
Definitely, it was a great experience for 20 years. I like to say 20 years and 17 days was my official time in the service. The experiences, the people I met, the friends I met, the travel. Been all over the world. Probably my favorite country visited. Been to Germany 6 times. Spain was really nice. Israel was fantastic with all the holy sites there. But the main thing was the skill it taught me as a journalist. I got to go through journalism school, and that was print school and photojournalism school. And I had one tour in broadcasting in Keflavik, Iceland, and that was a lot of fun. And it really turned me into a man going into the service. I went in right out of high school and taught me discipline. Not that my folks didn't teach me that as well. Back in Ludington, they did, but it just really enhanced. Yeah.
So I ended up in journalism too, but I was kind of messing around in college trying to figure that out first. And I wasn't enlisted or anything like that. So thank you for your service, though.
Yeah,
I
thank you for your
appreciate
service.
that. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So
guys.
you were stationed in Germany when?
I wasn't in Germany. I was actually in La Maddalena, Sardinia, Italy.
Okay.
And I was also stationed in Keflavik, Iceland. I served on 3 ships, the USS Bataan, the USS Nassau, and the USS Orion. The Nassau and the Bataan were both multi-purpose amphibious assault ships. They were 844 feet long. The Orion was a subtender. It would service submarines, would pull alongside us. We were docked right there in La Maddalena, Sardinia, Italy. And Germany, I've got there on some assignments. Really enjoyed Germany. The countryside's beautiful. Just the travel there. The food was delicious. And I don't know if I can say or talk about alcohol on here or not.
It's fine. I mean, I know a little bit about that from the last week.
Okay.
So
I was just going to
I think
say.
we're going to.
I was going to say that
we don't have to talk about the things that alcohol might make you do, but we can talk about alcohol.
I will just say that the beer in Germany was the best I've ever had.
So I can't attest to the beer because I lived there when I was 6.
Oh,
Although I
wow.
think you can drink when you're 10.
We know about your reputation, Ken.
Right.
Yeah.
So my dad was stationed. He's a retired military too, Air Force for 25 years. We were stationed in Ramstein
Okay.
and Hahn from 1980 to 1984.
Very
I
nice.
loved Germany.
Did you get to experience the Oktoberfest?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
As a 6-year-old.
Okay, yeah, as a 6-year-old. Okay.
It's probably a little different than a
Yeah,
26-year-old.
a little different as I think I was 21 at the time, 20 or 21 in Munich, experiencing the Oktoberfest, which was just fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the Hofbrauhaus.
I would love to go back.
Yeah.
What was the difference between like Germany and Iceland? And obviously, weather, but what are those things that you learned?
Iceland, the people there are it takes a long time for them to warm up to you. When they do, you have a friend for life there in Iceland. I know from, in Germany, the people were awfully friendly there. The friendliest people I actually met were in Scotland. And I mean, you'd meet people and you just met them and they would invite you back to their house. Oh, come on back with me and have a pint of heavy, So Germany, it was, like I said, the countryside was gorgeous and just going around. One of the things that stand out from Germany was visiting Neuschwanstein Castle. And that was, as they call him, Crazy King Ludwig's castle. And that's what Walt Disney designed his castle after, was Neuschwanstein Castle. So, yeah, I mean, I look back at my Navy years very fondly. I'm very proud of the 20 years that I served in the Navy. So,
Should be.
Yeah, it was, and like I said, besides the fact of all the other great things, the training and so forth was giving me that, going through journalism school, and it's something that I've taken forward now with the Ludington Orioles since I've been retired.
So this name Scoop, that's where that comes from
Well,
that journalism background?
Actually,
Or no?
Scoop comes from Ludington High School, and my journalism teacher I had my junior and senior year, Don Barbeau, back at Ludington High School. Yeah, so he gave that to me at the year-end awards assembly my junior year, and it's just followed me wherever I've went. So I know it's kind of a cliche for a sports broadcaster and journalist to be called Scoop, but that's
Right.
what I've always been known as.
Scoop or be scooped?
I mean, it's a good nickname, though. I mean, you could
Yeah.
come up with a lot worse nicknames.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So Scoop, like, why is it like you knew the gossip? You knew what was going on with the teams, or why Scoop?
I used to kid around with people because I was an infielder on the Ludington baseball team, and I'd say, well, I was down scooping when I'd scoop the ball out of the dirt, I said also my mom liked ice cream when she was pregnant with me. Scoops ice cream. No, really, it was Don Barbeau brought it up because I was always going around getting a scoop on, okay, what's going on with this sport? What's going on with Ludington football, Ludington baseball, volleyball, all the different sports there. And I was always going out around writing for the school newspaper, and that's basically where that came from. So, yeah.
And now you're the voice of the play-by-play voice, Oriole Sports Network.
Voice of the Orioles. I started out at WKLA for 1 year, 2011, doing Oriole football. Rod Beckman, who was the legendary voice of Oriole sports for about 40 years. 40 years, let me rephrase that. I kind of didn't enunciate that. 40 years. If you grew up in Ludington, around, in the 70s, 80s, 90s, you listened to Rod Beckman if you listened to Ludington football and Ludington basketball. and I grew up listening to him. And he approached me. I've known Rod for a long, long time. Said, Scoop, how would you like to become the voice of Oriole football? And this was just before the 2010 season began. And I said, well, I kind of got this was like 8 days before the season opener. I said, I kind of got obligations, but I hope the chance arises again. I hope this, ask me this next year. He goes, well, why don't we just cut to the chase? He goes, I'll take football this year. Next year, you take over football, doing play-by-play, and you'll be the voice of Oriole football. And I want to continue with basketball. Rod said that. Unfortunately, in 2012, Rod started having some health issues. And basically, I think I did 7 games in 2012 Ludington basketball, and then I was turned over to me fully in 2013. So I was doing Ludington basketball and Ludington football, and we switched from KLA with my partner Gary Castoni over to WMOM radio, and I was there until 2019, and then that station was sold, new owner, but they didn't do sports for a year. It was out of business for a year. Came back, and over that hiatus right there, Thad Shank approached me, the Ludington varsity basketball coach. And he said, hey, Scoop, he goes, John Stone, I've been talking. We're wanting to put something together. If we put it together, we want you as our play-by-play guy. Would you be interested? I said, I'm there. And that was the birth of the Oriole Sports Network. And we've been working in collaboration with 102.7 WMOM the past couple of seasons. So it's been a lot of great memories doing this. Been very fortunate. I feel blessed. I've been to the Breslin Center 3 times in the last 6 years with Ludington basketball. This past spring with Ludington girls, they made a great run before getting knocked out by Detroit Edison. And in 19 and 17, the Ludington boys. 17, the team went 25-3. An incredible win against River Rouge where Joshua Lehman hit the 3-pointer. I don't think I'll ever be able to top that call. I mean, unless Ludington wins a state championship on a buzzer beater. That call on Joshua Lehman's 3-pointer, and that was his only 3-pointer of that season.
When you're making a call like that, does that come from experience getting the call right, or how do you make a call in that moment, not like botch it?
People often ask me that. In fact, this past week I had a gentleman over, TJ Shimanek, came over and asked me to voice some highlights from his youth football program. And I was looking on the screen, and about the third one, he looked at me, he goes, Scoop, what's going on? He goes, it's because you're in your living room right here. He goes, I know the difference between live and, I said, yeah, it's a whole different world between when you're there and it's an impromptu and you're doing it live, or you're looking at a screen and it's like, oh, okay, I'm trying to get my enthusiasm up. But when I'm doing a game live, that's all natural. There's nothing fake or anything that's going on right there. It's just that's my Ludington orange and black through and through coming out right there. So, but I want to mention one thing about that 2019 Ludington team that went to the Breslin. They went 9-10 during the regular season. That was totally unexpected, and they got on a great run before they got knocked out by Hudsonville Unity Christian in the state semifinals.
Yeah, I think North Muskegon beat them at North Muskegon that year.
The last game of the season.
It was a heck of a game.
It was. We were without, for precautionary measures, Coach Shank held Calvin Hackard out that game. The athletic trainer said he could play if needed, but she goes, I'd advise that you hold him out. And I think it was a great decision on Coach Shank's part. Yeah.
Well, it all worked out. They might go back this year. They're loaded.
I'm having a lot of fun with covering the Oriole boys games this year. The girls team 7-3, the boys are 9-0. We were just here the other night in Whitehall. Yeah, really exciting game. A lot closer than the final score. It was an 11.0 win, but that game was a lot closer than that. Very physical game too. A lot of football players out there.
Yeah.
Now you would have called at least 1 or 2 of his games from when he was coaching, right? Or no? Did you guys play Ludington?
Yep, he came out. I remember that's the first time I got to meet Cody in person 3 years ago, I believe.
Right, yeah.
He was coaching Montague's girls varsity, and a heck of a game. I think it went into overtime.
Yeah.
And Montague prevailed. And then I went down. Well, before the game, I got to talk with Cody a little bit. And then after the game, we chatted a bit more went out on the court, and we were talking a bit. I could have talked a lot longer. I can talk sports all night long. And when I get the like-minded person, it's a lot of fun.
No, in that historic gym too. We've never been up there. I mean, you were able to come over early before the game, but we knew that we had a tough task too. So I didn't know if you were just trying to sweeten me up, and try to make me feel all good, like we're going into this game and just about to get, whacked. So, but it was a great game. But my question is, you've obviously been a part of the Navy.
Mm-hmm.
where you have a lot of teams and, you understand discipline like you discussed, but what have you seen within your Ludington basketball teams that kind of correlate between the two? I guess, from your own foundations of teams and how to make things work. And then these basketball teams that you're talking about are obviously elite. So how do you, what correlations do you see between those two?
I see what you're talking about there, Katie. A lot of that goes back to, Coach Thad Shank, the way he coaches. We're so blessed and lucky to have him at Ludington. Not only Coach Thad Shank, but also Coach Warren Stowe, who's got the girls program right now, and Coach Charlie Gunsel with the football team. But I see the coaches, you can't coach kids like I was coached back in the 80s. It's a different day out there right now. It's a different society, the way society is and so forth. So the way these coaches have adapted, I still see it in a good structured format, but they have adapted, and I can kind of see that with the discipline I had in the Navy and so forth. So that's a great question there. That's one I really got to dig deep to think on that one there. But yeah.
Right. Well, I'm just because when we went out there too, you could see that they were loaded, and then I'm looking at the Ludington team from afar, and they just put 10 on Whitehall, 12. What they finish? 11,
it was 11-point
11
victory.
points, something more. Yeah. So I mean, you're seeing those things, and the Whitehall team went pretty far last year.
Yeah.
So obviously, there's some chemistry going on. There's some discipline. There's obviously skills.
And hasn't he changed? I mean, the styles have changed too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, because they're trying to get up and down the court now.
Well, Ludington has had to change this year because, as Coach Shank has said, he goes, "I've got Matthew Westhouse. We call him Big Country, 6 foot 10-inch senior center." He goes, "I've got him, and I've basically got 13 guards because you go from 6'10" Matthew Westhouse to 6'1" Levi Lehman, and everybody else is 6'1" and below. Super, super quick. I've never done play-by-play for an Oriole team remotely this quick. I have a hard time keeping up with them at times. My neck gets whiplashed. It's trying to keep up with these guys. And we had a really nice win against Coach Billy Core and the Spring Lake Lakers here recently as well in the holiday tournament in Grand Haven.
Lakeshore Cup.
The Lakeshore Cup. Yeah, that was 2 nice wins there. We played Heights the opening game, and then we played Spring Lake the next day. And it was a nice 3-point victory over Spring Lake. That's been our closest game to date. This team is up and down the floor. Pushing the ball, and most, like you said, Cody, and most of the Oriole teams, all of them in the past have won with defense. Has always been the hallmark of Ludington basketball, both the girls and the boys. That has won with defense in the past. That 2017 team is a great example of that. They only allowed 3 teams to score above 50 points that year, but this year, when I got the thing back on the opening game, I was doing a play-by-play for a girls' game at Hawley Gym that night, and I got a couple of the moms that give me reports, and I said, "Holy cow!" I said, "Here's a final in, folks," and Ludington defeats Grant 87-74. I said, "Oh my gosh, it's been a long time since I've seen a Ludington score like this." In fact, it goes back to when I was doing the public address announcing at Hawley Gym, when we had some scores that were up in the 80s and 90s. Ludington's been over 90 twice this year. They've been over 82 or at least twice, maybe 3 times. But yeah, it took me back to some of those teams like 06, 07, 08 with Ludington. I know with the one year they put up 100 points a couple of times.
You don't see that as much in today's basketball era, in high school basketball era. But
yeah, you were asking me, Scott, about the probably the most memorable game I have done.
And that's where I was going next too. Yep.
Most of the most memorable games, ironically, have come on the road. However, there's been a number of really great games at Hawley. Probably the one I think of immediately, the one I do think of immediately, I go back to Valentine's Evening 2014. We were playing Fremont boys basketball. Ludington was down by 18 points entering the 4th quarter. They tied it up, sent it to overtime, and they were down in overtime. And then Cameron Banstrid, just a freshman then, his dad Jamie was Ludington's head coach at the time, drove the length of the court. And when he put it up, I thought he underlaid it, but he had enough spin on it to go in. So I'm sitting there just going bonkers on the air, and I'm like, no, it's no. And all of a sudden I said, no, it's good. And just started going nuts. And with my broadcast partner that night, Gary Cassie Castoni, we were just going nuts. What a comeback, and beating Coach Pete Zerfus in his Fremont team that night, coming back from that large deficit was phenomenal. And the most interesting incident I've seen when I've been doing a Ludington basketball game happened during that 2017 season. Dante Vella was one of our reserves on that team. Really good football player. He was one of Coach Shank's reserves. He had a big quarter at Muskegon West Michigan Christian that year where he put up 11 points in the fourth quarter. Well, I gave him the nickname the Microwave, Vinny Johnson.
Oh, yeah.
And about a week after that, James Crouch, who was a football player, big friend or great friend of Dante's, he had borrowed the microwave from the school cafeteria. He brought it into the student section.
Oh my God.
When Dante was announced by the public address announcer to come into the game, all of a sudden you heard this boom, this loud, and everybody just stopped. Well, what James had done when Dante was announced, he picked that microwave up over his head, and he would have been fine, except he didn't take the plate out.
No.
And the plate went out onto the floor and smashed into about 1 million pieces. The game was stopped for 5 minutes. This was against our arch rival, the Manistee Chippewas. And I asked James the next day, I said, hey, you getting a lot of trouble? He goes, not too bad. He goes, I did have to buy a new microwave for the school. So, I mean, that one, that's what sticks out, that one immediately.
So one of my I haven't been to many games in that gym, Holly Gym, but my first game in that gym was when Shane Battier and Country Day came and played against Holmes. When, was it Chad, right?
Chad Holmes.
Chad
yes,
Holmes,
yes.
That matchup, that gym was just absolutely packed. It was quite the atmosphere. And then that was obviously before Battier went to Duke and et cetera, et cetera. So
Chad Holmes was one of Ludington's. We've had 3 two-time All-Staters. Chad Holmes, the great Pete Tillotson, and the great Mike Larson, who's Ludington's all-time leading scorer. Mike then went on to play at Toledo. Funny thing about Mike, not many people know that Bobby Knight came up to Ludington High School unannounced and talked with him for about 2 hours. They pulled Mike out of class, and he shared that story with me. I thought, wow, that's pretty neat story. When Bobby Knight came up and talked with him for a couple hours, So
yeah. That's obviously a rarity in these parts probably, but obviously Izzo was at the Hall of Fame Classic, and Namick was clinging to him the whole time, sitting next to him, which is kind of, I guess it's a good thing to see, because I know that Namick probably got chewed 1 or 2 times by Izzo, but
I mean, you should.
Yeah,
That's what you signed up for.
relationships, man.
it's relationships. But that's the thing. When you get to that point, you understand it's not it's the message. It's not the
Right, 100%. I want to know why Ludington basketball. Like, why do you think it just keeps prevailing?
Like Coach Shank says, Ludington's blessed to have young boys and young girls that just love to play basketball. I know it's one of the hot spots on the Gus Macker tour every summer. The people just love coming to Ludington. They're right there on the beach. And I used to tell people all the time, I said, I kind of knew how special Ludington was growing up. But then when I went in the Navy for 20 years and got away, and I'd come back maybe once a year sometimes. I think the longest I was ever back, ever apart from Ludington was about 2 years. But I'm like, wow, how lucky was I to grow up here in Ludington, right on the beach, but you're right, Cody. Why basketball? It's like, just, if you look on our banners when you come to Holly Gym, you look under the basketball one, all the conference championships, the district championships, the regionals. The Ludingtons, they've been to the semifinals a few times as well. And they've had 2 boys teams that have been state runner-up, both in 50, I want to say 53, and then the 17 team. But, the girls team too. For many years, Ludington had really good teams, but we always got blocked coming out of the district by those great Manistee Chippewa teams. So, just people love playing basketball in Ludington.
No, and then you have the historic gym to go along with it, and then you have Gus Macker. We've seen old Ken there playing those Gus Macker. Are you
Back in the day.
Are you still in those?
Are you crazy?
I don't know, man.
I'm almost 50. There's no way.
I don't know. I
Hey.
think you still
Feel
do.
that come back to
what's wrong with being 50?
I just said I'm almost 50. I don't know what's wrong with being 50.
You guys are all youngsters. Yeah.
Well, so that that nice segue into the history is thick, obviously, in Ludington. But I just heard that they're doing a $100 million renovation of the high school, and now we're in the new league. And what are your thoughts on the inclusion in the new league, and kind of what the future looks like?
Everybody's really happy about Ludington being in the West Michigan Conference.
Yeah.
I know the Orioles have been, Ludington High School, they've been trying to get into the West Michigan Conference for a number of years now. And I know when I talk to the players, I do it's called the Indian Summer Ludington Oriole Player in the Spotlight. And when I do that segment, I ask all the players, a number of questions. What's, favorite meal that mom prepares for you and your family, favorite flavor of ice cream at House of Flavors. And I also asked them, hey, what is your thoughts on Ludington being in the West Michigan Conference? And all of them have been super positive about it. They like it. They like the competitiveness, that we're in there now with teams like Montague and Whitehall and Muskegon Oak Ridge, particularly in football. I mean, this last year in football, it was like the year before we played Whitehall in a game, and we knew we were going to the West Michigan Conference the next year. And I opened up, and Whitehall ended up they beat us pretty bad the last couple of years. And I can remember saying to the Oriole faithful on the Oriole Sports Network, I said, I guess the Orioles have just been welcomed to the West Michigan Conference, folks. Yes. So the $100 million, the bond that went through and so forth, you can see that in our Ludington Elementary School. A lot of that went to there. And there's going to be a lot of improvements. The football field, hopefully next year we'll be playing on turf.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh man, you hit
That'll help out. That'll help out our guy David.
a hot topic for this guy.
Yeah, that'll help out our guy David Sunshine Schillinger, who you guys have seen play basketball.
Yeah.
But he came out last year a little bit late for football, but some of the moves, he's incredible on the football field too.
Well, Gage Jones is back too, right?
Gage,
that kid, that was it a reception or a pick that he made this year that was just unbelievable.
The reception, we tried to get it on ESPN, but as good as a receiver as he is, I love watching him play defense. I just love that kid. Is one of the most competitive kids I've ever seen. I call him like a heat-seeking missile on defense. I mean, he comes up and he packs a punch when he comes up, and he's just as competitive on the basketball court too. So, and he's a heck of a baseball player too. Did I mention that yet?
Yeah. So, what do you see as the biggest advantages of Ludington being in the conference? You mentioned some of them already. Or are there any surprises, maybe things that you like? I didn't know that, but this is really cool.
Just great tradition. There's such stability in the West Michigan Conference. I mean, you look at the teams that have been in there for 90 years. Scottville, Mason County Central, our county rival. Hart, I want to say also that I believe Shelby is an original. So you got Hart, Shelby, Mason County Central. I know Oak Ridge has been in there for 59 years. I know I got my sheet with all the years down, but I don't want to slight any. I know there's been 4 or 5 of the original teams, and I want to say that Hart, Shelby, Mason County Central. Whitehall, I believe, was in the original year, but then they've been in a Seaway Conference and so forth.
And came back, yeah.
And I think was Montague in the I don't
North Muskegon was similar to Whitehall in that way, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They were there
What I
a long
found
time
funny,
ago.
what I found funny was that both Manistee and Reed City were both members of the West Michigan Conference for,
Oh, really?
for very short periods of time. Yeah.
Interesting.
So, that is interesting on that. But I know everybody's happy about being in the West Michigan Conference. I know we'll take some lumps in football, but it's good playing a tough schedule like that.
Yeah, I think it's a really good fit for Ludington. Size-wise, competitive-wise, you have all the sports that the West Michigan Conference has to offer, and you'll be competitive in all of them.
And they also like it. I know Dan Mesher, the principal at Ludington High, also he's the girls JV basketball coach. If you talk to him and other folks there as well, the superintendent, Dr. Kyle Corlett, they love it as well because it's a great fit for academics as well, like
Right.
robotics and with some of the other quiz bowl,
Right, some of the extracurricular sort of academic stuff, right?
So
Right.
yeah, good stuff.
So, I mean, you haven't been, you're not very busy, right? You don't have much going on in your life. But on top of this, in your summers, well, mid-May to mid-October, entertainer, you're in charge of entertainment on the SS Badger. What can you say about that in terms of what that entails, how you got into it, et cetera, et cetera?
Big ship, more fun is the first thing I want to say about that. And if you've never been on the Badger, take a trip sometime, folks. And hopefully I'll be working that day as the entertainment director, calling the world-famous Badger Bingo. You can win fantastic prizes.
Ooh.
There that I've done my shameless plug right there. How that all came up, well, actually, no, that wasn't it. That's a different story I have for you. So I just started, when I retired from the Navy, I thought about going down and putting my resume in at the Ludington Daily News. And I'm like, well, that's a daily. I do like writing sports articles, but I don't know about a daily, So I started looking around. I said, yeah, it might be a job I like. The Badger, Lake Michigan, water. I said, I'm just retiring from the Navy. This might be a lot of fun. if he'd asked me then if I thought I'd be doing it 19 years later, I probably would have said no, but that's probably what I said about the Navy too. Navy, I said, well, maybe I'll put in 4, maybe I'll do 8. When I got to 10, I said, there's no going back. I'm going to get my 20 years in the Navy. So the Badger's just a lot of fun. All the passengers that I meet, and you get a different audience every day on there. And I work 3 or 4 days a week, and I work mid-May to mid-October. And it's perfect with what I do with the Orioles, as being the play-by-play guy for Oriole football and basketball, and also being an assistant varsity baseball coach for Ludington baseball, which I love doing as well. I've been doing that for 8 years. So it's just it just fits. It fits, and it's nice as well. My wife, who's a school teacher, she teaches at Hart Spittler Elementary. It's great because we get to see a lot of each other. There are times when our schedules are not meshed up, but she's so supportive. I'm so lucky to have a wife like her. Yeah.
How long are those? Go
I
ahead.
feel like a slacker. All the stuff he's doing, I'm like, I got up at 10.
How long are those trips across the big lake?
4 hours, although we were making them a little bit quicker last year. The Badger had some renovations done, and it was making it across the lake a little bit quicker. It's a fun ride. If you've never experienced it, folks, check it out sometime. Yeah.
And how long are you over on the other side of the lake?
Okay, we leave at 9 in the morning, Michigan time. Now remember, Wisconsin's an hour behind us. So we get over there, and we generally leave there at 3 o'clock Michigan time to come back. Mm-hmm. So we're there, we usually get in about 12, anywhere from 12:40 to 1, unless we're running a little behind, but that doesn't happen that often. And then we're there, get turned around, get everything set up for the return trip. And we usually get back in around 6:40, 6:45.
So it's a full day then.
Oh, yeah.
So what are you doing when you're on the other side of the home of the Packers who lost last night?
We'll get to that too.
Oh, yeah. What a great Lions win. Don't get me going on that.
No, we will. We'll get going on that.
When I'm over
That's in the plans.
Well, when I'm over there, basically when the passengers are offloading, I'm down there as they go off. We call it de-greeting them, telling them thanks for sailing with us, and answering any questions they have. And when they're loading up, that's what we're down there. We're up there at the top of the stairs, greeting them, answering any questions they may have. So we get over there, we get that done, help out where the cruise director needs us to help out. Usually I go up, I got to restock the magazine racks, get my prizes all set to go for the world famous Badger bingo for the return trip, get that set up. And sometimes there is you don't get a break.
Downtime.
You don't get any break. Right. Other times you may have, 15 minutes to up to 20. You get real lucky, maybe a half hour before we start boarding again for the return trip.
They got you working.
Yeah.
Has there ever been any controversy on bingo?
We get some people that don't really care that much for my jokes at times.
Oh, okay.
But,
No fights, though.
No, flat out bingo brawls.
No fights. No fights.
Okay.
I'm very thorough at explaining the rules.
Okay.
One card per player. Yeah. 1 card per player. Please do not bang the cards on the table because we want them to last a few years and have fun. Those are the 3 simple rules to live by playing Badger bingo. So,
all right.
Yeah, and most of the people love the jokes too. I get booed an awful lot, which if I'm getting booed, I take that as flattery.
Right. Well, welcome to Scott's world.
Any crazy non-bingo stories from your journeys on the SS Badger?
Well, the one
It's a PG-13 show.
Yeah. I did. This is sports related and related to the Badger. So a number of years ago, I do have a number of autograph photos in my sports memorabilia collection. And I had made contact with Weldon Weldy Olson, who was born in the Upper Peninsula and played college hockey at Michigan State, was on the 1956 and 1960 U.S. hockey team in the Olympics. The 56 team won the silver medal. The 60 team won a gold medal. A lot of people you remember the 80 team, of course, but the 1960 team also, that was considered a miracle too. The U.S. winning the gold. Anyway, Weldy Olson's on the Badger. He called me up, told me he was taking the Badger, and he was probably in his late 80s at the time. And he came on board, and he goes, I don't care, Scoop. You can announce me. He brought his gold medal, his silver medal with him. He brought his medals from the hockey championships as well, the world championships. And people were coming up to him, getting their photo taken with him, and he was absolutely loving that, And I brought him up and introduced him and talked a bit about him, and he thought that was really, his wife was with him, and that was really, really neat. That's the first story that comes to mind talking about sports.
Your memory is phenomenal, by the way. Like, I can't remember what I had last week for dinner, like on a Tuesday. It's probably tacos. Like, you're just rattling off names and dates and all.
There's some things that, some things that I remember and bring up, and people are always telling me about that. I said, yeah, I wish it would have been that way for like math and science back in high school and some of these other classes I took and so forth, But I'll bring stuff up, and a lot of my friends are too. They're the same way. They're like, Scoop, how do you remember that?
Seriously.
How do you remember that ball game we played against Spring Lake in 1984, that game against Whitehall, And I'm telling you, some of the stuff just sticks with me.
It's
so,
pretty impressive.
Yeah. I can pretty much remember watching his 2 state championship games on Fox Sports Detroit. Those were pretty good wins for Montague. Yeah.
That makes one of us.
Yeah.
Well, on that topic, that's a great segue, because I wanted to spend some time talking about your insane high school football helmet collection. And before we do that, though, I'm going to step away from the seat and grab a couple particles, memorabilia. What do you call that?
Yeah, I mean, those are treasures.
I'll be right back.
Considering who they're signed by, they're treasures.
Oh, God.
The mini one has to be signed yet. We're going to ask Cody.
You better watch out. Coach Dennett might want that Rydell back as much as helmets cost.
Yeah. Let's see. We'll show this side here first. How's that? Is that?
There you go.
Yeah, I guess there. This side here. This was actually. Let's show this side first. This was signed here by Coach Pat Collins, who gave me this helmet a number of years ago from the silver days of Montague, wearing their silver helmets. And he wrote on here, he said, "Scoop, you're the man. I admire your passion for high school football." And then a few years later, and this was at Hawley Gym, this was the night that Montague played Ludington and girls varsity basketball, and Coach Cody Cater was the coach of the Montague girls team that night. And I went down afterward, and he said, "Scoop, thanks for the love."
Wait a minute.
So,
do you carry that with you everywhere you go?
No, but I was worried when I got out here in Whitehall today. When I came into the studio, I kind of hurried up, and I had it under my arm because,
Oh,
the
yeah,
rivalry,
enemy
the
territory.
You got to hide that.
The rivalry between Whitehall and Montague is kind of like Ludington and Manistee.
Yeah.
I mean, Manistee, you got to watch it, because if you got Ludington stickers on your vehicle and you park somewhere, you may get a parking ticket.
And that rivalry is even longer standing than Whitehall Montague.
Yeah.
Manistee,
It is.
it's one of the oldest in the state.
104. This past year was 144th, 145th meeting on the gridiron, which is by date, it's the 4th oldest rivalry in the state by the date, and by the amount of games played. Only Ishpeming
Nagani.
and Nagani have played more games against each other than Ludington and Manistee. And so that says something right there. Ludington, Manistee, yeah. That rivalry is pretty intense.
Pretty special, yeah.
Pretty intense, yeah. So here's the mini Montague helmet right here. And this side right here is blank here. And I'm hoping after the show today to get it signed by Cody. We got that.
Scott said he'd sign it too.
We'll have to get Scott to sign it as well.
Okay. Maybe you can sign the back page of the program, Scott.
Initially, when I got
The
this,
back where no one's looking.
I was going to say, Scott, initially when I got this program, I thought that was Cody on the front, but it's one of his receivers, I believe.
Matt DeYoung, yeah.
Matt DeYoung.
Yep.
But there's a great article in his side here.
And Cody's like, what's up with that? Why not me?
Montague's main man right here. Yeah.
That's
Main man.
DeYoung was a stud too, though.
Yeah. No,
was a stud.
No, he was.
He played up in Northern,
He had,
right?
he had Michigan Tech. He had a
Kicker and receiver, right?
He had a game that game as well. So
Yeah.
that was impressive.
Yeah.
Is
They
that-
could say Montague mustache man now.
Yeah. That's got a ring to it.
It does.
Off the streets,
That
man.
does. The Montague mustache man, huh?
I'm totally out on that, man.
And there's Coach Collins and myself. That's the day I got this helmet, Montague helmet from him at Montague High School. And I'm hoping to get a white Montague helmet.
Pat Collins was not the main man, though.
No.
At that point.
No,
Literally.
No main there.
No main.
By 27, I think it was gone, to be honest.
I knew when it was 21. I think it was gone then.
Maybe it's that. Yeah.
And the last piece of memorabilia I brought with me today is this program here that Coach Collins gave to me. And I thought I'd bring that down and get because I didn't see Cody's signature on here unless it's different from what he put on the helmet. So yeah, that's what I brought down today. Some Montague memorabilia there.
We started with that, but as far as the helmet collection, how many helmets strong, and then how did this passion begin for you? And even starting that.
I'm nearing 370 different helmets, and most of them are Michigan high school. I do have some helmets from other states like Virginia, Indiana, Ohio, Wisconsin, but obviously the majority are from Michigan. It started up, I was writing for logo decals, and then I heard from a couple coaches. One of them was Coach. It was a coach at Holland Christian at the time. I think it was, I want to say Tim Lant, and then coach at Manchester. And I was just talking about him not too long ago. Anyway, those two coaches said, "Hey, we'll do you one better. You come to our school, we'll hook you up with one of our helmets." So I quickly reversed direction, started writing to the athletic director, asking him to forward the email on to the head football coach and asking for rejected helmets from the reconditioning process. The first two I got back-to-back days, very first helmet was from Coach Peter Sturzma at East Grand Rapids. The very next day, a Reed City helmet came in the mail from Coach Monty Price, who's now at
Belding.
Yes, he's at Belding. In fact, Belding came up and played Ludington a couple years ago, so I got to chat with him for a while. And I didn't even have to say anything to him, didn't have to pester him at all. He brought a Belding helmet with him to give to me that day.
Yeah.
That's pretty neat. When
That's
I got
cool.
coaches, I don't even have to pester the AD or the coach, to go and get a helmet. But when I was a little kid, in the little bubblegum machines, they had those little tiny helmets. And I've always loved the colors of the NFL helmets.
Those
the
are
logo
awesome.
decals.
And then the pencil machines with the NFL
Yeah,
pencils.
exactly.
You
Yeah.
guys probably don't remember that.
I do. Cody, I'm sure doesn't. You have no idea, do you?
What's a pencil?
Yeah, true. That's true. That's
You
what
said
Brent,
on
that's
an
what
iPad?
Brent said to me when I got hired here too. What's a notepad?
Oh, yeah.
We're a tech company here, so
So how many? What Michigan schools are you missing?
Well, on my want wish list, and I know if these coaches hear these, they're going to be, "Oh man, he's pestering me again." Constantine is number one on the want list.
Okay.
And that's Coach Sean Griffith over there at Constantine. Another one up high on the list, and I just got them just recently, was Elkton Pigeon Bayport. But New Boston Huron is up there. The new Caledonia helmet. I have an old Caledonia helmet, but I've got to get the new one. I'm sure Coach Pennington will come through for me. He hooked me up with a Zeeland East helmet some years back. That helped too when Cal DeKuyper went there. The Ludington superintendent went to Zeeland, and that helped with the process of getting one from Coach John Shillito and getting a Zeeland West helmet as well. But some of the other ones, there's a couple Upper Peninsula helmets that are on my want wish list. The Gwynn Model Towners.
I love the UP.
Oh, I love the names.
Right.
You got the Hematites of Ishpeming,
The Flivers.
the Flivers of Kingsford, and the Speed Boys.
Speed
the
Boys.
Bessemer Speed Boys.
There's some-
Waters Meet Nimrods.
Oh, the Nimrods.
The Nimrods.
In fact, I'm working on getting a Waters Meet basketball jersey. I do collect basketball and football jerseys too, not to the extent I do high school football helmets. But,
So where do you put all this stuff?
luckily, I have a really, really big basement and a very supportive wife. Yes. And it's all right now. All the helmets are downstairs. The sports basement is a work in progress right now. So
So much more room for activities.
So much room.
yeah, yep.
What's
So,
the coolest helmet? Be honest too. I don't want to hear Ludington. Don't be biased.
Yep. What would make you think I'd be biased? I promised Coach Shank I would wear. He goes, "Make sure you talk a lot about the Oriole Sports Network."
There we
Scoop.
go.
But I said, "I will, Coach." There's a lot of, all of them have a great story and history behind them. And if I say one right now, I'll probably have some coaches a little bit upset with me. But if I had to pick one,
In terms of just sheer look.
we're not talking history here, because if it was a history, it would be teams like Farmington Hills Harrison, which was signed by John Harrington, and I've got a Detroit I have Cass Tech, but I also have Detroit Catholic Central signed by Coach Tom Mack, and I have a Brother Rice helmet signed by Coach Al Fracassa.
Fracassa, yeah.
But you know let's see here, it's just popping.
See, we
Kinda
asked
went blank right
the pressing tough questions on this
We
podcast.
get deep here.
We do.
Yeah. I really like the Bad Axe hatchet helmet I have right now. I got two.
That's pretty bad axe.
Bad axe.
Yeah. You have the
Sorry.
one.
I'm 50.
That was easy.
That's
Dad
good.
joke.
That's good. They sent me their old one, which I got a ton. Michigan loves their, the Michigan Wolverine style with the wing. And they sent me the old one. Plus, they sent me their new one, which I really like. And it's a blue helmet. and it's got like a yellow gold broken hatchet on the side, which is really cool. Another one that I really like a lot is the, and I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Kinde North Huron. They're an 8-player team, and it's just, I mean, you got a lot going on. It's like a Chiefs headdress, and in it says it has their name. Then they've implemented into the design on the helmet. So, but so many of them with so much history, and well, all of them do. All of them have a story. So,
what's the worst one?
The worst?
Yeah. Like
He's definitely not going to want to say that one.
The one that you see and you're just like, why did they choose
Well,
that?
I'll tell you what, our arch rival is Manistee, and they
Okay.
have the Michigan style too. and they got to have a Manistee helmet. And their coach at the time was Gus. For crying out loud!
Oh, he's at Cedar Springs, right?
Yes, Gus
Kapolka.
Kapolka.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry about that, Coach, if you're listening. Gus Kapolka. And he's got me a helmet, and he signed it right in front of me. He signed it to Scoop. Go Chips. Beat Ludington.
That was
And he
it.
signed his name. Then he signed his name to it. So I tell you, that rivalry,
Did you
Ludington
give it
and
back to him?
Manistee.
Did you just hand it back to him? Or did you
Yeah,
take
thanks,
it?
I think I faked it, and then I took it home. I said, I got to add it to my collection. You know, my basketball jersey I got going right now. One of my prized jerseys I received not too long back. I have a River Rouge Panthers jersey, and they have the most state championships. They've been to like 20 or 20.
Lofton Green.
Lofton Green, and that was a great rivalry there. Ludington and River Rouge used to play. They met in '54 in the state semifinals, and then a couple years later, Lofton Green and our legendary coach Joe Kowach got together. Rouge would come up to Hawley Gym one year. The next year, Ludington would play at Rouge, and then teams would go out for dinner, whether they were Rouge or in Ludington. And that rivalry ended in 83. Ludington finally beat Rouge. Had like a 23-24 game winning streak against us, and then Ludington finally beat them in 83. They didn't play in 84. They played again in 85 at Hawley. Ludington won that game. And then we didn't play again until 17. And you know what happened there? Joshua Lehman's 3-point buzzer beater. So we have a modest 3-game winning streak going against River Rouge. But I have that.
Not many
that,
teams
River
can say
Rouge.
that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that.
I have that Rouge jersey, and when I do get it framed, it's the Ludington jersey, the Rouge jersey, and then on this side, I'm going to have my Muskegon Heights jersey.
I know a couple people who might be able to hook you up with some updated Reese Puffer and North Muskegon helmets.
I
can do that.
too. Yeah, yeah. I do have a couple puffer helmets in the collection, but yeah, that would be nice.
Your helmets are green, right?
Or
You guys have white?
White, all white, everything.
Okay.
Oh,
All right.
I got
Yeah,
two
yeah.
different green ones I have in my collection. So,
Yeah.
and I do have from your former basketball coach. I do have a couple of puffer basketball jerseys from coach that was here a couple years ago for you guys, and I just saw him.
Johnson?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lance Johnson.
Lance Johnson.
Great guy. Boy, he was quite a basketball player when he played for Spring Lake. Yeah. But I saw Lance just recently. He was at the tournament in Grand Haven. So I got to chat with him for a bit. But yeah. So I didn't mean to take us off the subject right there. But yeah, you brought that up about that. The helmet collecting is so much fun. I mean, it's so great meeting the athletic directors and the head football coaches and talking with them. Sometimes I'll write to them, and most of my pickup or a lot of them I pick up in person, but I do get a lot of them through the mail as well.
What other memorabilia do you have?
That's cool.
What other types do you have?
Oh, I've got tons of bobbleheads. I've got lots of signed baseballs, signed baseball bats, signed hockey sticks, signed jerseys, hockey, baseball, football. I have quite an extensive fast pitch softball memorabilia collection. That was a very, very Mason County was a hotbed for Mason County or for fast pitch for a number of years. And so I started by just like getting my uncle and some of the other greats from the area. And then I said, you know what? I think I'll start getting some of the greats from Michigan. And then I said, I think I'll write to get autographed softballs from some of the greats around the U.S. And now I've got some of the greats in Australia and New Zealand, as well as Canada.
Wait a minute. How big is your basement exactly?
Seriously,
I'm
what
starting
were you
to wonder
talking
about this.
Did you mean pole barn?
Yeah. I mean, people are like, I said, yeah, I'll just have to every like 6 months, when we get it settled down there, just have to change out the memorabilia.
Do you have it on your dresser and in your bedroom and stuff, all this stuff too? And on your nightstand and all that stuff
I've got
too?
our spare bedroom is nothing but my memorabilia. And then the front bedroom, which is a spare bedroom.
You get the master closet too?
Yeah, that's every Friday night when one of our nieces comes over and spends a Friday night, I've got to clear that bed off of stuff. So, yeah. And then the basement, I'll take people for a tour of the basement. They're like, my gosh, Scoop, this is just, people will walk away. They're just like, wow. It's like, I knew you had a lot of memorabilia, but my gosh, and yeah. You guys are ever up in Ludington, you're invited to come on over and check it out.
Sweet.
And I'll make sure you leave there with, I've got pieces of Holly Gym, the original flooring.
Oh,
And
wow.
you can have people usually say, hey, would you like to take a piece of that for a piece of memorabilia?
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, because Ludington, when they put their new gym in, I've got some pieces of the old Holly Gym flooring.
We can stop by Sticks, that new restaurant.
Yeah.
Called Sticks. Have you been there?
Many times.
Yeah, that place is awesome.
Yes.
It's pretty cool.
My wife and I love it.
No, I haven't seen that. I just drive when I'm heading like east to go to see my mom up in Gaylord or whatever. I'll see the Ludington Meat Company that looks fairly new, but that's not like a sit-down place. Isn't that just a
You
place?
can actually go in there and sit back to the left corner right there. Really good burgers. Crown and Cork, another place. They're not open until April right now, but they're right. Great view. You can watch the Badger coming in. That's a plug for them. They're one of our sponsors on the OSN, so I thought I'd throw that in there.
Hey, about that too. We want to foster those relationships with like the Oriole Sports Network with what we're doing at CatchMark. So someone might think, well, why would they have on there? Isn't that kind of competition? I mean, yeah, we both do the same things, but covering some of the same schools, a lot of the same schools, but we don't look at it that way. So that's a plug for us too.
It's one big happy
there you
family.
go.
It is.
Great meeting you guys, and I met Cal Van Single here on the Badger this past year, and we've stayed in touch and talked quite a bit too. And what a great guy he is.
So speaking of meeting famous people, how well do you know Luke and Murphy Jensen?
If Luke had stayed in Ludington, we were classmates. He went to St. Simon, he went to Ludington Area Catholic, but I competed against Luke all coming up in grade school, whether it be football or baseball or basketball. And he left Ludington after his freshman year.
And those are the twins, right? That won the French Open.
No, they're not twins. They have twin
brothers.
sisters.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, Rebecca and Rachel, they're twin sisters. The great thing about the Jensen family, every member of the Jensen family is in the Mason County Sports Hall of Fame. They've all been inducted. Luke and Murphy were inducted in the inaugural class. But Luke again would have graduated in 1984 if he had stayed in Ludington. So I'm often talking to other friends, like one of my best friend Chris Castellani and others. I said, can you imagine if Luke Jensen had stayed in Ludington? If Eddie Eyrich, who was also went to Ludington Area Catholic, had stayed in Ludington, we wouldn't have been beat up on so bad in football with some of those guys playing football with us,
So speaking of which, my good friend, rest in peace, Randy Jacobs. Went to Ludington, and he told me the story of, I think Coach Jensen was the head football coach for a year.
For 1 year.
And he said it was absolute hell.
I'm sure it was.
They just ran the crap out of him, and he's like, "Oh my, this dude's crazy."
I had Howard as a gym teacher in elementary school, and we had some great. Franklin and St. Simon's were great rivals. St. Simon's, that was Luke Jensen, John Moosel, Eddie Eyrich, all those guys. Franklin was guys like Big Bobby Giacomino, good friend of mine, Jurgen Burgoyne, myself, and we had some great battles in the flag football with St. Simon's. But Howard, he was gym teacher. He was very passionate about what he did. He was a longtime tennis coach there at Ludington too. Yeah, and Pat Jensen, she was Ludington's gymnastics coach. They won 5 straight.
Like legendary.
Yeah. They won 5 straight gymnastics titles, 75 through 79. So our only state champions besides the 2001 Ludington boys soccer team that won a state title and our 2017 equestrian team.
And you know more than they gave you credit for.
What are you talking?
No offense.
I've been around the block.
Yeah.
I had Cody as a student.
People often ask me who were some of the best running back or best football players that you saw while growing up in Ludington and not doing the play-by-play. And this was when I was growing up, and I say, well, that comes down to a list. Johnny Williams from Reese Puffer, Curtis Adams from Muskegon Orchard View, Jim Bowman from Cadillac, and John Smolin from Whitehall. Those were the best that I saw. Now, I did play against Mike Teeter. He was a sophomore when I was a senior, and I just remember him being a beast. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he went on to play
He
Michigan.
pretty good, yeah.
Yeah.
So
So we promised we were going to talk at least a little bit about the Lions and Packers, and I wondered, you kind of dabble in both states. Where's your allegiance?
Oh, I'm a diehard, lifelong Detroit Lions fan, and I have one playoff win in my dad's lifetime, in my lifetime, and I should say they won the championship when my dad was 17 in 1957. He's 80, almost 82 now, and they've had one playoff win since then, and that was Barry Sanders, that was January 5th, 1992, 38-6 over Dallas. I still got the VCR tape. I watched it often. I think it's about ready to. So yeah,
I remember that game actually.
I get it a lot from the Wisconsin folks.
I'm sure.
Upper Peninsula folks.
Yeah.
Lots of Packer fans, and I've had to deal with a lot of abuse on the Badger over the years because I always tell. I said, "You Packer fans are so spoiled. You're so spoiled."
So you were watching the Rams and Seahawks before that too?
I was watching.
Kind of living and dying with that, and then all the comments on Twitter on the Lions aren't even playing. They're still getting screwed by the refs.
Yep.
Felt like
Well, we had the touchdown, the Jamison Williams touchdown called back. We had the the interception there by Kirby Joseph called back. There was also the first sack by Hutch on Aaron Rodgers. That looked to be a fumble. I don't know why they didn't challenge it, but it just seemed like all the breaks. Of course, when you're a Lions fan, you're wanting to get a couple of those breaks.
Right, it's kind of your MO, right? Like you've been
Right.
But you're hoping for those breaks, going against Seattle too, and it just didn't happen. I mean, Baker Mayfield, I guess you couldn't have expected much
And then
to happen there, right?
He throws the pick to the guy that the Lions,
That was a former Lion,
like,
right?
Are you kidding me?
Diggs.
What is one way to do that?
Yeah,
that's one way
exactly.
to end the game. Yeah.
But the plays they ran yesterday, I love Dan Campbell. He's been really growing on me and a lot of Lions fans. I mean, just his fourth down, how many times do they go for it? And they're not always going to get it, but you saw him yesterday waving the team back on there at the end because we're going to get this first down. His mentality, get this first down, and we're going to run the clock out. And he basically said when he was interviewed, I love it. He got a big old chaw. He's talking there to the sideline reporter, and he goes, "Well, our philosophy is if we can't go, we don't want the Packers going to the playoffs either. We're going to do our best to knock them out." So, and then the play calling. Oh my gosh, the play.
Was that play? And Cody, as the football coach, I know you're a football coach as well. Was that play they ran where they threw the quick little pass to
a little hook and ladder.
St. Brown? It was like a hook and ladder.
Hook and ladder, like with that kind of
late in the game.
Hook and ladder, or Cody, would you also call that a flea flicker or just a hook and ladder?
That was sweet.
Yeah, I would say it was more of a hook and
ladder.
Yeah. I mean, I like the fourth down call though. I mean, he knew exactly what he was doing. He short motion to get them. He knew he was in man and throw the quick out route there. I mean, there's like so much preparation that goes into it that a moment like that comes by and by an average fan would just watch it and be like, wow, they're going for it on fourth, but. He had the fourth and short call. Prepared. But I mean, it was sad. I'm a lifelong Lions fan. The Lions have been on the TV since I was born. At 1 o'clock, it's going to be on. Then it gets moved to a nighttime. You're like, what do I do during the day to try to prepare for this? But no, I wondered what that was like. The banter back and forth across Lake Michigan.
Oh yeah,
for you, that's got to be terrible. I had a bunch of Wisconsin teammates at Central, man, and it was like I couldn't stand the Go Pack Go chants. I can't stand the on Wisconsin.
It's brutal.
On Wisconsin, like what does that even mean? So I wondered what that was like for you as well.
And I have actually been to Lambeau 3 times. I remember going over there with a friend of mine that I was stationed in Iceland with, and he was from Wisconsin, and his dad got us tickets to go to the game. So another friend of mine and I drove over the Mackinac Bridge. We drove up there. He welcomed us. He said, "Welcome to Wisconsin." He's cooking up some venison for us. He hands us a PBR. And he goes, "Welcome, come on in." So the next day we go to Lambeau and watch the Packers with a very young Brett Favre beat Tampa Bay 16-13. And then I went twice with my buddy Jeff Petzak. We went back-to-back years and watched the Packers beat the Lions 16-13 both years. And that's when the Lions quarterback was Jeff Garcia. So this goes back to like 04, 05 time frame. But yeah, it's, Packer fans come on there. A lot of them, it seems like they're coming off feeling really sorry for us, as Lion fans. But just so good right now to see the way Dan Campbell, the way the draft, Brad Holmes, the general manager, what they're attempting to do by building in the draft on the trenches, the offensive line and defensive line. And it's future looks bright for the Lions. I mean, with the season ending last night, it's like, man, I want these guys to play. And you even heard some of the analysts last night saying, I'm bummed. I really wanted to see these Lions in the playoffs because I think they could really cause.
If they could go ahead and grab Will Anderson from Alabama, that'd be nice.
Well, they have a number 8 and number 16 pick in the first round.
Actually,
so.
I think
Anderson might not last that long, probably.
I think there's 6. They're 6 and 18.
Oh, okay.
And I'm pretty sure that, you guys heard what happened yesterday. Houston and Chicago swapped. So Chicago's got the number 1 pick now. They don't need a quarterback. So they're probably going to go.
They?
Well, yeah. They're probably.
Yes.
I would say the Bears are either going to go Jalen Carter or Will Anderson. So Detroit's at 6. I'm thinking that unless the Lions package something together and move up, Jalen Carter would fit perfectly on that defensive line. He's a defensive tackle, But if they can't do that, if they don't package those picks, hey, why not pick Miles Murphy from Clemson with your first pick if he's available? Or the guy that I really like is the guy from Texas Tech, Tyree Wilson, 6'7" and 275, and they said he's just an absolute freak, his abilities. And I'd like to see him get one of those guys with their first pick, or maybe somebody like a cornerback, like a Joey Porter, maybe with their second pick, or Christian Gonzalez.
Yeah, I can see them taking a corner.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
The safety from Alabama is really good too, Brian Branch. There's a lot of great players.
Yeah, there's so many.
Yeah, I'd like to see him go defensive line, linebacker, or defensive line, cornerback,
Defensive line.
yeah, and then linebacker.
Yeah, I mean, they're pretty loaded offensively right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
And Brad Johnson's like a freaking genius.
Keep him.
Like,
Whatever you got to do to keep him.
Yeah,
Add, add another offensive lineman somewhere, but go big on that D line.
Definitely.
Oh, for sure.
If they can get a couple of those guys on that D line,
man.
look, there's another guy from, I had his name right down here, Kalijah Cansey from Pitt. If they could get him later in the draft, he's not projected to go real high. That's another guy that would be pretty good on that.
We've gone to Lambeau a couple of times. Have you gone to Ford Field?
Yes,
as well. Okay,
been to
good,
Ford Field.
Good.
I never saw a Lions football game at Tiger Stadium. I saw a lot of baseball games there, and I've seen a number of games at Comerica. I really miss Tiger Stadium. There's something about you were right on top of the field, overhang and right field. The
Brig Stadium.
yeah, the how green that grass was the first time you saw it, just like you dreamed it. And then of course the permanence of the Tigers home jersey with that old English D on it. It was just like, oh, this is awesome.
I've been to Lambeau. I went to Lambeau once. My wife's a Packers fan. Although if you ask her, like, name a Packer, she's like AJ Hawk. I'm like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? But anyway, we went a few years back and saw the Lions play the Packers at Lambeau. And that really is an experience. I don't know if you've had a chance to go there, but they just kind of shut the whole town down. It just becomes a huge kind of block party. It's really a lot of fun. And the Lions beat them at Lambeau that game. It was wonderful.
Oh, that's awesome that you saw that, because that doesn't happen that often.
I know.
I remember one of the times I was there, we were, my buddy and I went up, and we actually got to talk to Don Majkowski, remember the quarterback before Brett Favre. And I remember going up to him and shaking his hand and said, hey, thank you for bringing the Lions back and making that playoff game a bit more respectable. Remember the year the Lions had won like 7 in a row, charging into the playoffs. Everybody's like, you got to watch for these guys. They went to Philadelphia, and they were losing 58-7 in the playoff game. They brought Majkowski in. Final score was 58-37. And he shook my hand, got a big smile on his face. He goes, thanks for remembering that. Got a photo with him. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Well, as much as I like to continue it, because this is a great discussion,
We're just getting started.
Well, I know we're just getting. This is just segment 1. You can come back next week.
Oh, man, I'll tell you. I love
for
talking,
part 2.
love talking sports with you guys. I'm usually a really shy guy, too.
So before we sign off on this one, we do have a fan that's commented, David Dusenberry, giving us compliments on a good show, but he also said go RP. He being a Montague supporter, but a Reese Puffer grad.
Yep,
so
power up, man. Let's go Rocket.
Hey, you should get him
Rocket
in your
City.
weight room,
Yeah.
Cody.
Yeah, you
some
see
lift
his
sessions.
biceps?
Yeah,
Friggin' Jack.
I'm looking forward to it, man. 8:00 tomorrow for about an hour.
Get up there, David Dusenberry. Do some curls with the boys.
Yeah, no, come Wednesday, Tuesday. We're power cleaning where I'm banned. So come Wednesday, man.
How often, Cody, are you asked about well, you weren't, obviously you're a Montague graduate, but the 1992 Reese Puffer team and Coach Pete Kutches. Did I pronounce it right?
Cooches. Yep.
Coach Pete Kutches. I actually visited him and his wife, had a great visit with him. He signed my Reese Puffer
Escanaba.
helmets. Yep.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, really?
No, it gets talked about, I think there's, I mean, when it comes to history there, in sport and football, there there's not a ton there. So I mean, 92, that's the only playoff game that they've that we've ever won.
Wow, yeah.
In that year. So like if you look at that, and then there's only 5 other times where we've made the playoffs. So there's not a ton of history in it, but he was obviously able to piece it together and go on a run, and obviously that last play,
The way they won it, yeah.
I mean, that'll always live.
Stacy
live
Starr.
forever. Yeah, that'll live forever.
That's how legends are
it's
made.
Really cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Todd, Scoop Hansen, for joining us. And another great episode. And before we say goodbye, let's thank our sponsors one more time. That's Grieve Law, Big Stone Therapies, Greener Realty with Chris Dykeman and Sarah Reel, North Grove Brewers, Foundation Systems of Michigan with John Botten, Coldwell Banker with the jacked Dave Dusenberry, who will be even more swole after he visits Reese Puffer's weightlifting session. Scheid Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, and of course our title sponsors, Van Dyke Mortgage, Lakeshore, and Durgan Insurance Group. I'm Scott DeCamp. This is Ken Byard. This is Cody Cater. This was episode 3 of season 3 of the CatchMark Sports Podcast. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Tell your friends, and they can watch this again and watch next week. We'll see you next week, same time, same place. Have a good one, everybody.